Hi everyone. So the question that we're solving right now is longest palindromic substring. So the question says that we're given a string S and we have to return the longest substring present in S. Longest palindromic substring. So a palindromic substring is the same if it reads forward and backward. So to check if a string is palindrome or not, we can take help of two-pointer approach, right? So, before going to the question, let's just say that we have a helper function called, let's say, bool. It returns boolean for now, but I'll edit it later. Is palindrome, which takes the string as maybe in character form. So let's have a character array of string and a start index and an end index. Let's also have int n, which is the size. So in here, let's return the length of the palindromic substring. So let's int length of palindrome. So what this function does is it takes a start and end index, and then it sees, you know, up till what index are the characters valid. So let's initialize our length to 0 and return length at the end. So we check if our start is greater than or equal to 0. That means it's a valid index. And then we also check if my end is less than size of the string. And we also check if our character, character at start is equal to character at end. If this is true, then we add 1 to the length. And we are going to decrement start and increment end. So what we are essentially doing here is that, let's say I have a string BABAD. So essentially I am expanding around the center of the palindrome. So let's rename this expand around center. So this will be end minus start. It wouldn't be length, by the way. So this will be end minus start minus 1. I'll tell you how. So this is something we are returning. So this will be end minus start plus 1. See if my end is 0 and my start is 0. And what will happen when this while loop thing will, this will go out of bounds, right? So either my start would be minus 1. So that is why we are doing a plus 1 here. So yeah, we'll get to this thing later, but let's see. So in here, what are we doing is, let's say we have a length integer. And what we do is we iterate. So firstly, we're going to create a character array for this string. So now what we do is we iterate. So this is the length of the array. And now what we do is up until size, we iterate. So in here, we are going to expand around the center. So when we expand, let's say I'll have even length and I'll have a string of odd length. So my odd length will be, I have to expand around center, right? So I'm going to pass the string. Then I'm going to pass start and end. So what's my start and what's my end? My start and end would be I and I itself. And my size is size. So this is my odd length. Now similarly, I can have a palindrome of even length, right? So in case of even length, what happens is my I start and end becomes I and I plus 1. Fine. And then we are going to check if my length is smaller than, let's say, let's calculate the maximum length. So in max length is equal to matter max odd length and even length. Fine. So what happens now is that if my length that I have stored right now, it is less than my max length. So then what I do is I calculate left and right. So initially, let's say my left is 0 and my right is 0. So now what we do is I'll calculate left. So left will be length, let's say maximum length. So whatever is my I, so I minus maximum length minus 1 by 2. I'll tell why minus 1 by 2. And then my right is going to be and length is max length. And my right is going to be I plus max length by 2. So we need to have integer division. So this should work fine. So yeah. So in the end, when we come out of the loop, we are going to return s dot to the s dot substring we left and right plus 1 so that it includes the character at right. So we'll see how did we do this. So yeah. Okay, herein we have to do end plus plus. So that was a mistake on my end. I have to decrement start and increment end. So yeah. So anyways, the question basically, let's come to the time and space complexity. So the time complexity is, this will go on up until big O of n. And in here, we expand around the center. So at max, it can go big O of n, this as well. So that's why the time complexity is big O of n square. In space complexity, if I talk about auxiliary space and all, I mean, if I don't talk about the space that we are using to create this temporally and store it, so it would be big O of 1 since we're just having few variables called length, size, left and right. So yeah, we also have this character array. But we can optimize this. We cannot have this character array. So then our things would get easier. So right now our space complexity is big O of n because we are storing the characters. But we can optimize this. So let's optimize. So let's have S here and let's also have S here. And yeah. So now what happens is I have to have S dot character at, sorry, this would go string. And I would have S dot character at start. and this would be s dot character at end. So yeah, this is how it works. So let me explain one more thing. So now the space complexity becomes big O of 1. So anyways, now let's see BABAD. So what happens in BABAD is like we initialize with 0. Now we are treating 1 as our potential center. Fine. And we're going to expand around the center. So let's say if from B, I have a palindrome of odd length. So what will be the center? Center would be I itself, I and I itself. Then let's say from B, we have let's say a palindrome of even length. That means we would have two centers, right? So I and I plus 1 would be the center. Fine. And no need to worry about, out of bounds exception. Why? Because it will be taken care of in here. End is less than size. Fine. Now what we do is we expand around the center and we somehow assume that this is going to give us the length of the, palindrome. So then we see what is the maximum length in between odd and even length. Then we check if our length variable currently holds the maximum length palindrome. If not, then we are going to update. Now this update, let's see. So we are going to have two cases, right? If our string is, if let's say we get a palindrome of odd length. So what happens is that my max length minus 1. Let's say this is even. Let's say I have a palindrome of even length. Now what happens? This becomes odd, right? And odd by integer division. This by 2 becomes an integer division, right? So what happens is, since our center was I plus 1, right? So what happens is, instead of overshooting the left, we get the correct index of left. And because we know that our center would have been I, between I and I plus 1. But now we have this I plus 1. And we know that on the left side, there are less characters. See how? If let's say we have BABAD, okay? Or let's assume BBCBBD. So in here, if I see this B and this B, so if I say this B, right? So my right has, let's say, what's the length of the palindrome? 2, right? And from here, I have how many characters to the right? I would have basically, this is actually a small string, but the thing I'm trying to say is this will not overshoot. Left would have lesser characters, and right would exactly be max length by 2. So that's why, and we want to have integer division here, and for odd length this wouldn't matter. So because we're anyways doing minus 1 by 2, and integer division would give us the same value. So yeah, this was it from my end. Thank you.